we'll also have people jump in on the replay. That's kind of what's been happening. So thanks everybody who's here watching with us. I'm going to introduce Leah again, and we will get started with our conversation. So Leah Recor, the abundant parent, is a wonderful woman that I actually met kind of early on in the Clouds and Dirt journey. I think we are connected through Lewis Howes and his inner circle, which is a bit of like a, I don't know, like a mastermind kind of marketing group of entrepreneurs. So we met through there, and I've been watching Leah's journey ever since. She's rocking the YouTube world with her law of attraction and parenting videos. She's just about to release her first book, Where the Light Is, which is a law of attraction and parenting book, which is super, super exciting. And she's a speaker, a mom of 2 beautiful girls, and she's really here in this world teaching us how to be abundant parents and how to use and leverage law of attraction with our children. So thank you so much, Leah, for joining us today.
Thank you for making me sound so fabulous in your introduction.
My pleasure. That's what I do. And I'm really excited to dive into this topic. As a lot of you know, in the Clouds and Dirt community, I've got 2 boys, Mateo, who's 6, and Rome, who's 1.5. And obviously, as somebody that is committed to and practices the law of attraction, being able to bring my children up with these teachings is really important, and not always easy, but that's why we have people like Leah to help us integrate it into our lives more fully. So Leah, let's start with you telling us about your awakening journey. Like, have you always been an abundant parent, or what was your process into kind of finding yourself in this world?
Oh, heck no. I was definitely not abundant. And the funny thing is that I didn't even know that I wasn't either. I'm just going to say I was in a cloud. I thought by being organic and crunchy that also meant that I was highly conscious, and I was mindful on some level, but the mindfulness was more about how I was treating my kids and how I was treating other people, but not really about how I was treating myself and that internal dialogue that was going on, which is everything with the law of attraction, right? So no, I definitely was not always abundant. And for me, I didn't really have that lid opened to this understanding of the law of attraction and this higher consciousness until I was going through my divorce, which was, despite everything else I'd been through in my life with losing my mom and at a very young age, and just all of these other experiences we have becoming who we are, it was definitely the pinnacle moment of my life was going through my divorce, losing all sense of community, feeling very, very alone and unsupported, and ultimately completely devastated. I would definitely call that the lowest time of my life. And it was at about that same time that I was starting to do more self-care practices, and I was actually getting waxed as something that I was starting to do for myself. And I love talking to people, and I don't even care if it's the person that's like all up in my business giving me a Brazilian. So I was talking to her about everything that was going on, and she was like, you should check out Hay House Radio. I think it'd be really helpful for you. So I downloaded the app and I started listening to all the speakers on Hay House Radio, and one of those speakers was Abraham Hicks. And I couldn't really wrap my head around the woo-woo part of, her being this collective consciousness and all of this, but her messages were undeniable, or I guess I should say their messages. I could not deny how much every single message I listened to felt like it was speaking to me directly. It was everything that I needed to hear. And in so many regards, it was those messages that pulled me out of this really deep, dark place of switching that victim mentality of feeling that life was happening to me, and recognizing that I had so much more power in my life than I really ever gave myself credit for. And that was it. Once I had that little flicker of light go off of understanding the very early concepts of the law of attraction, from there, I just wanted to devour everything. So much so that now I'm here trying to teach everyone else about the law of attraction and bringing it to their kids. Because, I mean, gosh, can you imagine if you learned this when you were a kid instead of waiting till you were like almost 40?
Yeah, I know. And I talk about the law of attraction a lot in in Clouds and Dirt, because it was actually the catalyst for me starting Clouds and Dirt. So it was right around the time I discovered Abraham Hicks, and I discovered Abraham Hicks way before, but yeah, it just came across as a little bit too weird for me back then, like a channeled entity, like, what is this? This is a little weird. And then it was kind of a few years ago where I rediscovered it, and just, yeah, you just, the message, like, you cannot argue the message. It just resonates on so many levels so deeply. And when you actually apply it and put it into practice, like, you can manifest whatever you want. And you know, how consistently you can be a vibrational match to what it is you want to manifest, that's a whole different story. But you know, the
Right.
is very, very true. And Clouds and Dirt actually started as a way for me to talk about this process of manifestation and conscious creation. And then I came across people like yourself and many other people in our consciousness collective community who work with the law of attraction every day. But yeah, it is, if anyone listening to this has not listened to Abraham Hicks before, just get past the kind of strangeness, if you think it's strange that this is a channeled message, channeled entities, and just dive into the YouTube world of Abraham Hicks videos. It is life-changing stuff.
Absolutely. And I think you actually commented on one of your posts in Clouds and Dirt that you listen to Abraham Hicks every morning. And I totally do that too. Her voice is just rolling while I'm getting up early and I'm doing my stretches and yoga and I'm putting my makeup on or whatever it is I'm doing in the morning. She's the positive messages that's rolling in the background of my morning every day.
Yeah. And I think it helps, and we won't go too deep into this in this conversation, but when you're so accustomed to the voice of Abraham and hearing that channeled voice, it makes it a lot easier to connect to the place within you that has that wisdom as well. And
Yes.
I definitely notice when I go off Abraham and, you know, I also tend to kind of lose that connection with my inner voice or my higher self or whatever you want to call it. It's the same entities that we can channel through ourselves, but it's just nice to you know, make it a habit to really connect with those voices and that wisdom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
maybe you can, and I love how you describe like how law of attraction works, because you can do it from a very scientific background. I know that you speak to a lot of kind of corporate groups and people that aren't necessarily spiritual. So I love how you can talk about law of attraction in a way that is not too woo-woo or out there. So how would you describe it? How does it work?
Sure. Well, and I love that you said that, because I love talking about law of attraction in a way that it's attainable for people. I don't want to put people off of it because, you know, sometimes we make up our mind that something's going to work or it's not, or something's weird or it's not. And it's just so accessible for everyone. So I often talk about the law of attraction, that in religion, it's God, and in science, it's physics. It's this quantum understanding that like energy is attracted to itself. And so by understanding that there's two different ways that you can approach the law of attraction, the overwhelming theme that connects the two is that trust either in science, that the law of attraction is always at work in our lives, or that trust in God, that trust in the universe, that it always has our back. And so I approach it from two different sides, because people seem to really connect with the law of attraction either from a very spiritual side or very scientific side. And sometimes it can be hard to really meet the two in the middle, but I think the law of attraction does a really beautiful way of connecting those two very different, I'll call them philosophies, science and philosophy, which doesn't always meet in the middle, but it does a great job of doing that for us.
Yeah. And what I love is it's you know, you practice it and it's you feel it, like you create your reality, your thoughts create your experiences. It's hard to think of any time in my own life or, you know, looking at other people's lives where that didn't, like, it is a law of the universe. Like it is, there's not any examples of where that doesn't work. I mean, there are one-off, you know, tragic things that happen and things that can't be explained. But when it comes to, you know, normal daily life events, what we think we create, and it's hard to argue against that, I think.
Absolutely. And even if you have a hard time wrapping your head around this idea that your own energetic responsibility for the events in your life, you can't argue that when you are in a positive mindset, everything just feels better.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it goes to parenting, I mean, your kids, when did you start talking to them about the law of attraction and manifestation?
Well, the cool thing about about where I've started with my kids is that they saw where I was before. And because of mirror neurons, which we all have mirroring neurons in our brain, and those are the neurons that mimic the neurons of other people. You see this in athletes and spectators. When spectators watch a sport, they actually fire off the same neurons of adrenaline and excitement and all the same neurons that the athletes are firing off while they participate. That's the work of mirroring neurons. Well, you can imagine if you can do that with a total stranger who's an athlete on the field, you can imagine what that means when you are in your home with your kids, intimately connected with them, that everything that you're feeling, everything that you're doing, they are mirroring that, whether we are all conscious of it or not. They're all mirroring. Yeah, they're always mirroring our neurons. And so for me, it was kind of cool because my children got to see this process of me learning the law of attraction, beginning to apply it in my life, and then that extra step of trusting it. So because I'm actually modeling the journey, I don't have to actually get really detailed with my kids. I can suggest games for us to play that are manifesting games, or we talk about our feelings a lot because that is really the foundation, that cornerstone of manifestation. So for me, I didn't really have to introduce them to the topic because they were watching me evolve. I mean, whether they know it or not, they're getting those Abraham Hicks messages every morning too, as they're kind of circulating around my ankles and hanging out while I'm doing my stuff in the morning too.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about, I mean, like, so I've got a 6-year-old, and we talk a lot about like your feelings, like you attract things that you feel. And that's like something that, we've discussed for the last few years. So it's normal for him. And, when he's feeling angry, we talk about the emotion, but then we point out situations and what happens as a byproduct of that angry feeling that he holds.
Yes.
But now I've got a 1.5-year-old. So I would love to talk to you about the law of attraction and how we can incorporate it into the lives of our kids as they age. Like you say, you play some fun activities with your girls who are a bit older, but what about younger kids? What about teenagers? Can we go through the different kind of age groups and talk about, how to incorporate it into their day or into our conversations as a family?
Well, like I briefly mentioned before, the number one way that you can bring manifestation and law of attraction into a really small child's life is through demonstrating, because kids, they are really working through life through their pretend play and through the play that they do. So when you're looking at really small kids who are just starting to walk and then going into being toddlers, what you're seeing with them is that they want to have a broom too, and they want to sweep with you. And if you are a parent that does yoga, you see these videos all the time on Instagram where mom's doing yoga and the little guy is, pretending to do yoga with mom. I mean, the absolute best way that you can manifest, excuse me, with really young kids is by going through the motions of doing all of those things yourself. So finding positivity on the regular, honoring your feelings, and when you are feeling bad, letting your kids see that it's okay to have those bad feelings, and then showing them how you move through those feelings of using self-care tools or anything else that might be in your arsenal for choosing better feelings. So when kids are really, really young, they're not really going to understand as much of this. Oh, let's talk about mirroring neurons and let's talk about manifestation. They're not going to understand all of these really big words, but they are going to understand how you feel, because they're going to be feeling those too through their mirroring neurons, and they're going to see these practices that you are bringing into your life to keep your body feeling good, to keep your mind feeling good, so that you can shift into those vibrations that you want to align with, that you can shift into those feelings, those better feeling thoughts, and they will see firsthand how you are following your bliss, you're following those better feeling thoughts into then attracting the better feelings back into it. So it all starts with modeling for the really little kids.
And what about, I mean, this kind of goes for all ages, but Alicia brings up a good point in the Facebook group. The topic on not honoring feelings and like bypassing the feelings. And I know that is an important topic with the law of attraction. is it something that we teach just to kind of push those feelings aside, or how do you go through the process of honoring the feelings and then moving on to better feelings with your girls?
We definitely don't bypass feelings. We hit those suckers head on. So anytime that there's bad feelings, we will definitely stop everything and just be in that moment. My kids know that no matter what they're feeling, their feeling is always right. It may not feel good, but a human's emotions, a person's feelings, they're always right, whether you agree with that person's feelings or not. So we definitely sit in that moment with the feelings and say, yeah, you're feeling pretty bad right now. But I don't immediately push them towards, okay, but let's start to feel better. Because a really big part of finding those better feeling thoughts is being present with the bad feelings. And yes, it's really good to have those tools to pull yourself out of it. You don't want to stay in those bad places, but sometimes you do need that little bit of time to allow yourself to work through those feelings. Otherwise, you're just stuffing them, right? So the more that you work through those feelings, however that you feel best, and the same with your kids, it's just going to take them longer because they're little kids. They don't yet have the tools to deal in the same way that we do. But then the other piece of it is they're also amazing at feeling better faster. I mean, they can fall hard and you're pretty sure like their whole front of their kneecap is going to come off. And as soon as they get over the shock and the scratch and the boo-boo and they get that Band-Aid, most of the time they have a really fantastic day after that. So just letting them know that their feelings are absolutely okay. It's okay to give yourself time to deal with how you're feeling instead of feeling that you need to push through them or push them aside or stuff them. That it is okay to spend that little bit of time saying, wow, I really feel bad, but that's okay. And telling your kids that too. You really feel bad and that's okay. And then, giving them a little bit of time to talk about it and then holding their hand to guide them towards better feeling thoughts. Like, okay, well, we've felt bad. We're in the guck right now. Let's look forward to what we can expect, the good stuff we can expect to come towards us, to come into our lives, to be attracted into our lives once we move past this bad feeling.
I love it. Yeah. And then having them feel that spark naturally that draws them to the higher vibrations or the better feeling thoughts.
And sometimes those bad feelings last a lot longer than others. I noticed with both of my kids as they started to struggle a lot more with their peer dynamics at school. It took longer to move through those bad feelings because they weren't coming directly from me. They were having experiences outside of the home. And so it was taking longer to talk about what some of the experiences the other kids might be having and how those experiences might be coming into their experience with their friendship dynamic. And, so it gets complicated as they get older, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm just getting there now, but yeah, I can see the complexity of it as we get other influences into their lives. So moving past like the really small kids now, let's go to like the school age kid, the kids just getting into school. Like, what are some activities? How do you kind of broach the subject of manifestation with them?
So for my kids, I've made it a game. So they already understand that I talk about being positive a lot. And we practice gratitude at dinner. We'll sit around the dinner table and we'll talk about things that we're grateful for. At bedtime, we'll talk about setting our intentions for what we expect to be grateful for the next day. But then we play those manifestation games. So sometimes when I pick my kids up from school, we'll be in the car and we'll just set our intention. I expect to see, and then they'll say something. So a really great example of this was my oldest daughter. She decided she wanted to see a cat. And I thought, all right, this kid is head over heels in love with cats. She's got cat pictures all over the place, cat toys. I was like, I feel like if we're going to manifest a cat, it has to be over the top. Like, it can't be just like one of our regular cat experiences. And she was like, yeah, that's fair. An over the top cat manifestation. So we got home. She opened up her phone and she had gotten a message from her grandma saying that the cats that she had been fostering, their litter was born. And so she just got all this barrage of pictures of all of these kittens that were like freshly hatched. And we thought that is totally an over the top cat experience for manifesting. So you can play little games like that I expect to see. And one time we wanted to manifest penguins, and we actually didn't realize we had manifested them 3 times until we were reflecting back on our day from the day before and realized we'd actually seen penguins 3 times and we totally missed it. So staying focused when you're playing the manifestation games, being always aware of what you're seeing and pointing it out. And it's just really interesting when you start to play those games with your kids, you start to have more faith in manifestation.
Right?
Also
Ask for something a little bit bigger than a penguin.
Yeah. Brand new car.
There it is. That's a good reminder. And yeah, I guess it's just being intentional and prioritizing doing that stuff, because it does get hard sometimes. And I know I've gone through phases of being really, really great with that. And, and sometimes it gets, life gets busy. It doesn't get prioritized, and it can be hard, but I think it is important, like you said, to just make it part of a ritual and stick to it and make it a priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So now school age kids, they're getting a bit older, getting into the teenage years, where they're maybe a little bit more selective on what they want to hear, or, how they want to act. What are some tips and strategies for dealing with teenagers?
So my kids are not teenagers yet, but my boyfriend's kids, his oldest son is 13. So I've actually been kind of dabbling in those teen years a little bit through him. And the really interesting piece is that you are really discussing a lot of the same things regardless of their age, even into adulthood, because we're always nursing those wounds of our inner child, right? But a lot of the things don't shift as the kids get older. They just become a more active participant in the questioning of things, and more active in those conversations about trying to understand. And it becomes so important as they're teenagers to be constantly turning that lens towards what's your inner truth. This is what your friends say. This is what your teachers say. If your kids go to church, this is what your pastor or youth minister says. There's always all of these outside messages that they're getting, especially as they're creating their independence in the teen years, really starting to embrace who they are ultimately going to be. They're putting on all those different shoes of all the different people they think they might like to be. And so the more that you give them the power to tap in, to tune in, they're sharing their struggles. You can say, well, how did that make you feel? Was that in alignment for your inner truth? At this point, you may have been already talking to your kids when they were younger about what intuition is and where they feel intuition. Like a lot of little kids, when they're not feeling good and their intuition is trying to tell them something's not right, they get tummy aches. That's almost like the first place kids feel it when their intuition is giving them warning signs, is tummy aches. Well, it's the same for the older kids too. They know when something doesn't feel right. There's going to be places in their body where they feel like it's not right, or they're going to be personally insulted by something that's happened. They might feel their inner guidance and their alignment is thrown off through how their ego is feeling. So there's always, because they're in a place where when teenagers, they want to have that independence, they want to know that they have the power. It's actually a really great opportunity for you to guide them in understanding that they do have their own independent power and their own gifts and purpose, and that you can guide them to understanding when their body is saying, no, that's not part of what your inner truth is. Like, let's bring that back and give ourselves a second to think about that. So part 2 is reminding your teens that they're going to be making a lot more decisions independently without you. They're going to be having a lot more moments where they respond personally to things without you. So decision making, but also response to events. And so just reminding them that taking a second to breathe, and so you breathe, you just pause for a moment. And then in that moment, they can even say, you know what, I'd like to respond to this at another time and have more time to think about this. But reminding them they always have the power to pause and reflect, tap in, see what it feels like in the inside, if it's true for alignment for them. Because if it's not going to feel good. It's going to throw their vibration off.
That is so powerful. Like, I had no idea what my intuition was when I was in high school, and I could have avoided so many boyfriends or bad situations. To have a teenager that takes a breath and checks in with their intuition before they make decisions, like, how amazing is that?
Well, and for me, I don't know how it was for me, but for me, when I was a teenager, I always wanted to please everybody else. So I wouldn't have ever even if it didn't feel right, even if I knew, oh, my intuition is telling me no, I would have just disregarded it because I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be approved of and I wanted to please other people. So it's like, even if I did have an understanding of my intuition, I wouldn't have thought that it was my own right and my own power to stand up for my own inner guidance and intuition.
Yeah. And that's a whole other topic. Like, how do we raise our kids to not need that? Because I was the same. I had FOMO. Like, I always just wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be accepted and approved by people, and that motivated a lot of actions that probably weren't for my highest good.
Right.
Bluntly. But yeah. How do you raise kids who are not needing that external validation and who have this intuitive connection?
And two, though, we don't want to disregard the power of natural consequences and this understanding that we are always on our path, even if it seems self-destructive, even if it seems like our kids are ruining their lives. They do have all of these experiences that are going to come across in their life, good and bad, that are all going to redirect them. They may, stop them on a path that they felt so sure was their path, but something comes up and gets in their way. It gives them that resistance. So as much as we need to honor our responsibility for the events that have happened in our own life, the fact that we can follow certain paths, but we have to honor that sometimes those paths, the universe might open up a better path for us or redirect us to get to the path that we want better. It's happening for our kids too. So if your child is really rebellious, that's them really trying to listen to their inner guidance, listen to what's in alignment, and trusting that the universe, that the law of attraction is guiding them on their path. Even if there seems like there's some missteps, there's lessons there. There's things that are going to come back and serve them through that experience that they're having, which is so hard when you're a parent that wants to protect your kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm glad I have you as a friend resource for when I get there. Yeah. So you've written a few articles for Clouds and Dirt, and I loved your articles. And one of them was kind of about tuning into our kids. Like, they naturally have this intuitive ability. And I think there's a lot about manifestation that we can actually learn from our kids. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I think the number one thing is that we are actually born having it all figured out. And what happens is, through social conditioning and our experiences in life, our understanding, we keep putting filters up on top of everything. So by the time we reach young adulthood, we have layers and layers of filters of how we are supposed to understand our place in the world. And so when you look at your child when they're really young and you just honor that they were born with their own purpose, their own ideas, and they actually had it all figured out, just like we did when we were born, but we've unlearned it. They have it figured out right now. And so when there's times to make transitions with your kids and like their lid just blows and they have a total meltdown, they were maybe busy playing or maybe busy coloring, and you wanted them to shift from one activity to the other, honoring that they are so in alignment when they are in the middle of play or in the middle of coloring, and they know what feels good, and they know that it feels bad when there's an abrupt shift in what they want to do. And so I'd say one of the best things that we can learn from our kids is honoring that they already know what feels good. They know that their purpose in life was that they were born to be happy. And us in our adulthood, we lose our way. We forget that it's our right to be happy. We were born to be happy. Everyone was born to be happy. And there is not a checks and balances sheet for the amount of pain you have to endure before you can be happy. You can just be happy. Even in the middle of the gunk, there's always something that you can find to be happy with. And we see that with our kids when they so easily find their way back to happiness, even when they've had a tumble or a fall or if they've gotten hurt. So that's one really strong thing that you can learn from kids. And then I think honoring that sometimes we need transition time when we are in alignment and we have to go and do something we don't want to do, like producing videos about the law of attraction because you're so passionate about it. It feels so in alignment. But then looking over and realizing, oh, it's Tuesday, the 29th of the month, I'm going to have to pay all of my bills. And that so doesn't feel and alignment. So honoring that you might need a transition day, maybe giving yourself an extra day when you know that you have bills to deal with or something, and preparing yourself that you're going to need that transition to go from something that feels so good and so in alignment to tackling things that don't feel as good, and mentally setting the intention that you're going to move through those things that don't feel as good really simply and easily, and then you can get back to what feels good later. But I would say those are two things that kids definitely teach us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the whole transition thing and setting ourselves up to do the stuff that doesn't necessarily feel good, but contexting and framing it in a way to, like the taxes thing, like the paying taxes, appreciating the financial abundance that comes to you that creates the taxes that you need to pay. Or I also like to, when I'm doing things that aren't fun, to have a nice cup of tea and just appreciate the drinking of the tea while I'm hammering out something that I don't want to be doing. So yeah.
Right. Like, finding that thing that feels good that you can focus on, that better feeling thought. So
yeah,
it's like, you know what, I'm honoring that I don't enjoy doing taxes, but that's a great idea, but here's something that I can enjoy and focus on as I'm doing this thing that I'm
Yeah, totally. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk a bit about your book. And as I was kind of reading about your book, I know it's not available yet, but you can pre-order it. So I was reading that page, and I saw something you wrote that really kind of sparked something in me that I'd like to talk about. So you wrote, no longer making your kids successful by social programming. So that's kind of a big theme of your book. And can you talk to kind of what that's about and how you're addressing that in your new book?
Sure. Well, so I think all of us can agree, I've talked a little bit about filters, but I think most of us can agree that something that probably drew us to the law of attraction to begin with was this understanding that we had been living in the social requirements of the world around us and not always honoring our inner truth. And so something that I really focus on a lot with my kids is honoring their purpose and what they feel compelled to do and what they're passionate about, and honoring that success doesn't always mean what we've come to understand of it by our current social structure. So I think that you don't have to look too far in all the fashion magazines and everything. Like, success is definitely wearing a silk dress, having diamonds dripping off of your body, definitely lounging on a sports car, and you probably have some kind of exotic animal on leash.
I do that all the time.
and that's definitely, I feel, all the talk about brand label purses and shoes and cars, and even a lot of the manifestation stuff that you can follow online. It talks about manifesting money. So there's a lot of people that talk about manifestation, and it's all about money, but it's even more so where it's okay to manifest money. I'm not saying that that's not okay. But it's really like all their pictures are like the really expensive cars and talking about success in regards to this physical understanding of representations of success. So money, the things that you can buy with money, etc. And those things do feel really good. But also, if you're not dealing with the wounds from our childhood, if you're not dealing with your wounds even in adulthood, if you are not feeling successful in the amount of joy that you have in your life, it's amazing how many people that I know who are very, very wealthy and still not happy. So it's so important that when you are setting your children up to have a successful life, that they understand that first comes with being happy. Because if you're not happy when you're poor, or you're just getting your business started, but it's just not making the kind of money that you want, you're certainly not going to be happy when the money is rolling in, because you just can't buy happipiness, right? It's an inside job, not to use a whole bunch of quotes all in one sentence.
It can only take place in the here and now. There's no deferment or deferring of the happiness. It's
exactly. Nothing else can make you happy. Only you can do that. And so a lot of, in the book, it's actually written as a guide. I'm actually getting ready to send it off to beta testers, but let me tell you, as a parent and as a single mom, I've been watching people say, I'm going to write a book, and then they finish their book, but like they don't have kids and stuff yet. And it makes me crazy, because I'm like, I'm still writing mine.
I'm impressed though that you did it. Like,
Thanks.
I can't wait to write a book, but I'm not gonna do that now.
Right, it's crazy. But so the book is set up as a guide, so it goes through all the steps of the law of attraction, and there's exercises at the end of each section. So because like I talked about earlier in our talk today about how you are the best way to teach your kids about manifestation through your own behavior and the things that you're bringing into your own life to support you. So at the end of each section of the book, there's an exercise for you to work on yourself, and then a section that you can do an exercise for manifesting with your kids or help them understand the law of attraction with your kids. And then there's actually a second part of the book, which is all about self-love. So the number one way that you can bring all of this to your kids in the best way possible is through caring for yourself and bringing in really good practices consistently for self-care. And it's so easy. The easiest thing in the world you can do when you're a parent is to put yourself last and to martyr yourself by putting everyone else in your family first. But you are really this epicenter of energy in your home as a parent, especially if you are the stay-at-home parent, because you're the person that's bringing all the energy into the home all day long. You are this epicenter of energy in your home. So the better that your energy and your vibrations are, the more everyone in your environment is going to model that, is going to mirror those neurons. And it's just so important, which is why I dedicated a whole second part of the book to how can you manifest and how can you bring more self-care into your life.
And how do you do it besides listen to Abraham Hicks while you get ready in the morning?
I drink a lot of whiskey. No. I know I talk about self-care, but it's just whiskey. No, it's not. I do a lot of things. Like I found EFT tapping as a tool when I was dealing with a lot of anxiety from some of the things I'd been going through. So I discovered EFT tapping, and it was so effective for me that I took the next step and got certified to teach it. And my kids do it now. I spend time meditating, and because my daughter has seen me do energy healing and then also EFT tapping with clients, she has started to do EFT tapping and energy clearing and meditations on me. So she has me lay down and she'll put like a plastic pony in my hand and a crystal in the other hand, and she'll talk me through a relaxation and stuff. And so I've started to honor that when she wants to do healings on me, I've begun to honor, like, she's powerful. If she believes that she's healing me, she is totally healing me. So I just try to sit and honor that time and not worry about the email I was supposed to respond to or the post I really wanted to get set out. And so taking those little breaks that the universe offers me through the people in my life or circumstances, one of the greatest ways that I've brought more self-care to my life is intentionally pausing when the universe is giving me opportunities to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just any minute of downtime and using that as a moment to be still or, be intentional, set an intention. Yeah.
And not feeling guilty about it.
Yeah.
Because that's another big thing for us as parents, is feeling guilty when we do take that time for ourselves. But, as soon as you recognize that everything just gets better when you're looking out for yourself, you can care for everybody else better. Then a lot of that guilt goes away.
Yeah. And I think when we tap into that higher power as well, like I can get very overwhelmed with, the kids stuff, the household duties and the businesses to run and, the stuff to do. And lately I've just been, handing that over to, a higher power, my higher self, telling them what I need to get done and just trusting that it will all happen in divine timing and really surrendering to that. And it gets done, like it does. Absolutely. And it's so much less stressful. Everything flows so much better in the house. So I think it's, when you do have a lot on and you've got kids, it's kind of letting go of some of that control.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Control is the killer. But, to your point, something I do is I definitely meditate and journal also. Do I do all of these things every day? No. Sometimes it's just not in the cards. Do I make a point of doing them most days? Absolutely. But to your point about letting the universe have some of your burdens, is sometimes as part of my journaling, I will actually write kind of a T chart. And on one side, I'll write down the things that I'm going to take care of that day. On the other side, I'll write down the things I'm just going to let the universe have.
Delegate.
Because I can't even some days.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly liberating.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is a good practice, especially for busy moms out there.
Absolutely.
So what's one thing out of everything we spoke today, for those listening to this, what is one thing that they can start taking on or actioning to help teach their kids about manifestation?
Well, I truly believe that gratitude is everything, that self-love is so important, but sometimes you can't jump right into loving yourself. But it's really easy to jump into finding gratitude for something in your life, even if it's the tea while you're doing taxes, or it's the chocolate that you hide in the freezer from your kids and you eat when they're not looking. There's always something, regardless of how big or small it is, something in your day that you can find gratitude for. And it's been the easiest thing to bring into my children's lives. It's teaching them to learn how to carve those neural pathways towards expecting to find good things in their lives. And so whether it's happening first thing in the morning, naming something that you're grateful for either the day before, or something that you plan to be grateful for in the day, whether it's a mealtime experience where you're all writing down on a little piece of paper something that you're grateful for and you're taping it on a door, or you're putting it in a jar so you can all see how what you're grateful for is multiplying. Maybe it's at night as part of your nighttime routine, reading a bedtime story and then saying something that you were grateful for. That is, I would say, I know it's so simple, but when you do the gratitude practices in repetition, you do them consistently, they absolutely shift your mindset. And what's going to happen is if you're using your children to be accountable for that gratitude practice and showing up so that you can bring gratitude to your children, you're going to benefit too. Should you probably try to do more of it on your own? Absolutely. But, sometimes we just need to start small. And the easiest way to do that is to do those gratitude practices. I didn't really believe that gratitude practices worked until I did them consistently, and I could really see how my mindset was shifting. And that's, I would say, the number one thing that you can do, and remarkably powerful, are finding the joy and being grateful for what you already have in your life.
Yeah. I'm inspired to extend that to the Clouds and Dirt community and do a bit of a gratitude challenge or a gratitude kind of commitment for the rest of the month.
I have to tell you, I do it in November as part of Thanksgiving in the US. Is we will do I will post every day, even if it's just at the end of my regular post. I'll be like, and today on day 13 of November, I am grateful for, and I'll just kind of throw it in there. But it's so nice to have a community like Clouds and Dirt that will provide that space, that accountability, and that reminder. People will see your posts. They'll be like, oh gosh, yes, I didn't do my gratitude today. And that would be awesome.
Yeah. And we know we need to do it, but it just falls sometimes to the bottom of the to-do list. So it's nice to just have those reminders and
Absolutely
prioritize. It all comes to priorities and being conscious with what it is we're doing and how we're spending our time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us now, I think we're gonna finish it up now, but I'd like for everybody to know where they can find you, where they can get on the list to pre-order your book. So yeah, can you tell us where we can find you, and then make sure to on Facebook just add the links so people can click on and stay in touch.
Sure. So I'm all over the social media. I'm at The Abundant Parent pretty much everywhere. I think Twitter, I'm just Abundant Parent. There's no the there. But I'm The Abundant Parent pretty much everywhere. So regardless of what your favorite platform is, you will probably find my posts in one way, shape, or form. I don't do Snapchat,
No.
but how does the joke go? Like too old for Snapchat, too young for Life Alert. So that's a great way to find me. You guys can find the pre-order for the book on theabundantparent.com. I also host experts in mentors and healers that offer workshops for parents every month. So you can sign up for that membership there too, if you'd like. You'll find all of that on the website. It's theabundantparent.com. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm kind of everywhere.
Yeah. And make sure to check out her YouTube videos, because they're just so well done, and you're just a natural in front of camera. And I love watching them.
Well, I have to tell you, I was a musical theater major in college.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely have experience putting myself out there, but I was so uncomfortable when I started my platform, you guys. I would have to get myself all amped up, and I would have to like breathe and like calm myself before I do video because I was so nervous about it. But you just got to start. Once you start, it comes. Like you begin to have more and more faith in yourself, more faith in the universe. You hone your skills and you get more confident, but you just got to start regardless of where you are.
Yeah, it's the journey of being an online entrepreneur. You kind of just have to do things you're uncomfortable with until they feel natural, and then something changes and you got to try something new.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody who caught this live, and everybody who's going to be listening to it later on Facebook and the podcast. And yeah, I'm inspired now to get onto those gratitudes and be more consistent with those. And I'm really excited about this journey with my own children, and teaching them how it feels to follow their intuition and make decisions from that place. And like you said, we can't avoid all of the rocky stuff that's going to come in the future, but equipping them with the tools so they can navigate them better and follow what feels right to them is just so powerful.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Leah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we are